I'm about to show you a video, a very horrible video. It involves a teacher encouraging a student to fight another student, which is clearly against every school rule. If you are a teacher, if you see a fight happening, common sense would tell you to break up that fight. That's exactly what common sense would tell you. In the warning, what you're about to see is very disturbing. Take a look.
24-year-old substitute teacher Natalie Garcia was arrested Monday, charged with 4 counts of child endangerment, after this video came to light. You can see these are 12 and 13-year-olds at Kimbrough Middle School in Mesquite, Texas, whose faces have been blurred because they're minors, appear to be fighting each other at the encouragement of their substitute teacher. The incident was caught on a cell phone video obtained by NBC Dallas. The mother of the student who filmed this video says she was shocked at what she saw.
I was devastated. I was like, I couldn't watch the full video. I had to stop it multiple times because I didn't think it was real. I said, this must be a prank. This is not real.
According to Martinez, her daughter told her Garcia pushed desks aside to create a space for the students to fight each other, with some leaving the classroom bleeding.
I do not want this on record.
The school district confirmed the teacher encouraged the fighting and told a student to keep watch at the door while fights took place.
Who in their right mind? Because I trust my child to go to school, but I also trust the staff to keep my kids safe. And then this lady, she actually making them fight.
Mesquite Independent School District released a statement calling Garcia's actions appalling and intolerable. They write in part, "As educators, our hearts are heavy, knowing that an individual entrusted with the supervision and care of our students could behave in this manner, and we share the disgust that the families of students in this class must feel." Mesquite ISD has fired Garcia, who had been an employee of the district for just over a month. It's not clear if Garcia has obtained legal counsel. The Dallas County Public Defender's Office has not responded to a request for comment. Now, Beatrice Martinez, whose daughter filmed the video, says her daughter is getting death threats from fellow students for reporting the incident.
Common sense alert. I am disgusted. 6 years of doing this show, I am disgusted with what I saw. Here's the thing. If you see a fight happening, you don't go in there and just encourage it to let it happen. That video that we saw during our viral break where that teacher broke up a fight like a boss, he should have been in there jumping in saying, hey, if you guys get a fight, you go do it off campus. You don't do that during campus hours. Fighting should not be allowed. Child endangerment. I'm glad that teacher's being charged and being sent to jail for her role in this. If you decide to be a teacher, you gotta say to yourself, I care about kids. And the minute you say this, you gotta start throwing away everything. I mean, if you encourage people to fight, then they're gonna fight anyway because either way, they're gonna start fighting. And when people start fighting, it's like, what do? It's like nobody else knows what to do. So you have people here who just sit there and say, well, it doesn't matter. That is why videos like this should not be popped up. I mean, this teacher said, I don't want this on the record. Well, the person recorded this. Well, too bad the daughter recorded this, posted on social media, and now she's getting death threats. Look, she did the right thing by recording the incident and reporting the incident. That's the whole key here to understanding about what the hell is going on when it came to stinking saying, oh, I'm going to encourage kids to fight. No fighting. We've all seen those videos on YouTube about people fighting in school. This and this and this and that, blah, blah, blah. We all get it. We all get it. But what you have to understand here is, yes, I understand you hate the person, but deep down inside you, that person's that want to that same person doesn't want to fight the other person. There's good inside. Inside every bully, there's a coward, and the most cowardly thing that you can do is the most cowardly thing that a man can do is put his hands on a woman in anger. That's that. You don't, as men, we don't ever put our hands on a woman in anger. Period. Anyone that does is a coward. But inside every bully, there's a coward. I believe the teacher should be facing jail time. I mean, child endangerment. What if we go on break? The sentence for child endangerment in the state, you can spend no less than 2 years in prison, 2 years up to 20 years in prison, and a fine that costs up to $10,000. An injury a child is also a felony crime in Texas. If convicted, you can be charged with a state jail felony, 20 years. Just try to understand. Still ahead, what parents can do more about bullying. It's a national epidemic. What should parents do? I'm going to give you some tips and insight. And coming up next, you're about to see more of this love swindle scam as Hindi Camera show this one only person who's doing an experiment for Dateline. See if he can get scammed. Stay with us. Yesterday, I brought you the story of 5 elderly men who were taken advantage by the gypsy women, who we know are part of a gypsy cult, in scamming men, taking advantage of them for not only for their life, but their money. Now there's more to this case, as Chris Hansen tells us. Move this over here for a minute. Sorry. As Chris Hansen tells us, it's a scam you don't want to mess with.
They will try to befriend one, target one if you will, trying to develop it into a relationship where their ultimate aim is to gain monies and or property.
So we set up a controlled experiment to see what would happen. We asked a 78-year-old man named George to help us out. We gave him a history, a lonely widower with time on his hands and money to spend. And we sent him into this flower shop in Hayward, California. The shop is owned by Steve, the same Steve that Tony Bruschka says put the pressure on him. He met a young woman at the shop who told George her name is Rosie Perry, but when she and her cousin were arrested in May of 1995 in connection with the sweetheart swindle, she told police her name was Rosie Yanko. Her cousin was convicted of grand theft, but charges against Rosie were dropped. Rosie is Steve's sister, and Diana is their mother. She was friendly and invited George to visit again anytime he wanted to talk. He played along, as any lonely elderly man might do. He went to the flower shop often. He had lunch in the back of the shop. Rosie gave George flowers, hugs, and when they went out to a restaurant, the hard luck story of her life.
I have relatives and stuff. I go visit them. But I'm not going to live with them. I'm not going to give them my problems. You know, they got enough of their own.
Yeah. Well,
someone to be happy.
She told George about medical bills she needed to pay and a fiancé killed in a boating accident.
I'm over it now.
The next day, Rosie told George all she wanted was a companion, and a May-December relationship didn't concern her at all.
Don't bother me. If it did, I would be your signature. I'm happy to be with you. I'm not embarrassed. I'm happy. Because there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I'm not embarrassed.
And it's official.
She was telling George that they were a couple. She even talked about going to Hawaii with him.
When you're ready to go to Hawaii?
You want to go to Hawaii too?
Of course.
And she told him she'd love to visit him in New York, where he said he lived.
I want to go shopping in New York. I want to eat in New York. I want to eat my heart out in New York.
So we decided to pick up the tab And not just for Rosie. She told George she wanted her Aunt Diana to come along. But as you've seen, Diana is really Rosie's mom.
As I understand it, you wanted open booking, right?
Rosie told George to buy open tickets, saying she and Diana needed to be flexible. So we went along with it. But we wondered if there was another reason why someone would want open tickets. As you'll see later, there was. We also arranged for them to stay and visit with George in this New York City hotel, because we didn't want to ask George to use his home.
How are you?
Rosie and Diana left their room and had breakfast with George in his suite. Just 15 minutes into her visit, Rosie was giddy about her prospects in the big city.
Think you like it? What are you going to change? What are you going to do?
So I find an apartment.
Yeah? Oh, she's fat. You're all ready.
I'll look for apartment to live.
And that's not all. Rosie said she saw a perfect spot for her own flower shop, right in the heart of Manhattan.
Coming here. And she's looking out the car window and she's looking, and then there was this store for rent. And then she goes, that would make a great shop. And I'm just looking at her, you know, what's wrong with her?
Is there a big front window? And then you can, decorate it real pretty.
And later that day, Rosie, who had been out only twice before with George, was bold enough to ask him to rent an apartment for her.
Or you find an apartment to rent it.
So, if I found a apartment, rent it for you?
It sounded like an offer many lonely elderly men would find hard to resist. A 26-year-old woman implying that she was ready to move across the country to be with George and take care of him.
If I find an apartment, I'll love you, cook for you, do everything. Put your coffee. But I don't mind anything. I'm not saying don't do it yourself. I'm not saying liberated woman.
But later that night over dinner, George told Rosie he wasn't feeling well, and we decided to cut the visit short because in reality, we weren't going to bankroll Rosie's plans. Watch what happens the next morning when Diana turned up the heat.
I said, how was your dinner? She said, it was lovely. And then boom, started pouring out tears. Straight to the bathroom. So she came out, and she lay on the bed and she wouldn't stop crying.
Diana told George Rosie didn't want him to leave.
And evidently she found herself with a crush. And I don't think she doesn't know how to handle it.
And later, Rosie confesses her true feelings to George.
I'll put it to you straight right here.
Then Rosie cried as she told George she didn't want him to go.
I should have to see it gone.
But Rosie, as you may have guessed, could be crying crocodile tears. Maybe she's upset that the trip might be ending for the other people who were staying on our dime. Other people Rosie didn't tell George about.
So how was your trip?
Listen as George asks Rosie about her flight from California. She told him she sat next to a stranger on the plane.
We were sitting and there was someone sitting next to us. And seats, because there was like seatings.
Yeah.
There was someone, a stranger sitting next to us.
But Rosie was telling a lie. The man sitting next to her was no stranger. In fact, Dateline watched him leave California for New York with Rosie and Diana. He even stayed in their hotel room. The man who was with them was Steve. That's right, the same Steve who was married to Venus, the one who Tony Bruschka says put the pressure on him. But apparently Diana didn't want George to know that a man was with them, because she later gave Rosie instructions about what to say to George, and she spoke in the gypsy language of Romany, so he couldn't understand her. We asked Detective John Nicholas to translate for us.
She said in Gypsy Romany, "Don't think that there was a man with me. Tell him quietly." And then the young lady asked, what do you want me to tell him? And then she repeated, "Tell him that there was no one with me."
And Steve wasn't the only guest George didn't know he had. This woman met up with them at the airport in New York, and she also stayed in the room. 4 people in a room George had reserved for 2. And it turns out they pulled a fast one on George regarding the airline tickets as well. Remember, they specifically requested open tickets. Well, open tickets are expensive because you can change them or get a refund. And that's exactly what Rosie and Diana did. They got a refund for the tickets George sent them and traveled on cheaper tickets. They made nearly $3,000 on the switch. Possibly because George started asking questions, Rosie eventually admitted that they took the tickets to the airline for a refund. But Rosie lied again when she told George she'd accidentally left the refund checks at home.
I'm so excited. I have to undress. I'm packing my stuff. Didn't even fold them.
At home on the dresser? Not a chance. This letter from the airline confirms that the tickets George bought were presented for a refund at the airport on August 14th, the same day Rosie, Diana, and Steve traveled to New York. Apparently $3,000 wasn't enough for Rosie, because before George left New York, she reminded him of how strapped she was for cash.
Because I have enough money just to go back home. Yeah.
And Diana wanted to make sure that George would pay for the hotel. She called him on the phone and sounded as if she was crying, telling George, "I'm so pressured, I don't know what we're going to do." But just a few hours after that phone call, Diana and Rosie looked like big spenders.
I should have that bracelet.
We wondered if our $2,800 was burning a hole in their pockets as they danced their way through the Diamond District. And when Rosie and company left New York, they had a lot more with them than when they arrived. And despite the fact she promised to send George the money, so far George hasn't received a penny. We decided it was time to pay Rosie a visit. We caught up with her in front of the flower shop where she first met George.
Hi, Rosie. Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC. How are you today? Do you remember George? Do you remember George?
No.
The man you went to go visit in New York?
No.
Let me just show you this videotape. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was that woman with you?
That's not it.
Your aunt? What's her name?
Well, that's none of your business.
We asked Rosie if she told George the truth.
I did not lie to him.
You told him that you had traded in some airline tickets and then you left the money on the
explained that to
dresser.
him. I told him that, and I had to send it to him. But someone stole it.
Somebody stole it. Well, we have evidence here that you traded in the tickets and made $2,800.
Would you stop following me?
Well, I just want to get your side of the story here.
Well, that's none of your business, okay?
Rosie, members of your family have been accused of taking advantage of elderly men.
Would you go away from me?
Rosie hurried off and went to a payphone down the street. A few moments later, Steve arrived to pick her up. We tried to talk to Steve, but he sped away. And we had some questions for the Loio women, too. We wanted to ask about some of the elderly gentlemen in their past. We went to the Loio family home in Sacramento, where we caught up with Anna, the matriarch of the Loio family.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
Uh-huh.
Why is it that you, two of your daughters, and a daughter-in-law are all named in suits alleging that you've taken advantage of elderly men?
Oh, come on now. Get away from me. Don't start that.
What do you mean don't start that? What's going on? Why are you and your daughters named in
of
these suits?
what? Of what?
Well, like this man, Harry Champion. Do you know him?
Oh, get out of here. That's
You know
my
him?
son-in-law. That's the liar right there.
What do you
That's the Dimitro family, the liar.
The Dimitra family, one of your daughter's aliases is Dimitro.
Please.
Why all the aliases,
Talk to my
Anna?
lawyer. Talk to my lawyer.
Can we talk to you for a minute?
Anna refused, and we left. But we still hadn't spoken with Venus, Bonnie, or Lisa. So we went to another house where Loio family members have been seen. And look who shows up. An elderly man on a bicycle. Naturally, we were curious, so we stopped and asked him some questions. His name is Louis Del Moro, and he's 78 years old. And guess what? He knows Bonnie Loio, too. She stopped him when he was riding his bike one day. It was a story we had heard before.
She stopped the car and told me that she knew me.
Had you ever seen her before that time?
No, not that I know of.
She's living.
And it turns out Del Moro says he's given Bonnie money for medical expenses. The last time she came by, he said he didn't give her any.
I figured that maybe I was giving somebody money that I needed myself.
What will happen to Louis Del Moro, we don't know. But we do know that the sweetheart Swindle has left a trail of men much like him, broke and broken-hearted. Men angry that they were taken, anxious for someone to stop these women before they strike again.
After all she did to you, what do you think should happen to Venus?
Put her in jail.
Lock her up.
Yeah. So she can't do it to somebody else.
I would tell her that I hope they put her in jail for a long time and reduce the menace in our society.
Some final notes. 2 of the women, Lisa and Venus Loio, are currently under investigation. None of the swindles you've just seen resulted in a criminal conviction of any of the women involved. If you feel you or members of your family are being victimized, there are steps you can take. Contact your local police department and ask if they have an elder abuse unit. If police cannot help, ask if there's a local public guardian's office or a Department of Adult Protective Services.
There ain't no need to throw in the common sense, Lloyd, because there's already common sense as Joan Phillips explained. And Chris Hansen explained. What can you do to stop bullying? Coming up next, it's a national epidemic, and we're going to answer the question for parents, so stay with us. Bullying has become a national epidemic. 1 in 5 kids have reported being bullied. So what can parents do? Here's Jackie Calloway.
Hey, buddy. How was school?
Good.
A good day at school. No longer commonplace for second grader Angelo Massaro.
And what did you have for lunch today?
Mac and cheese.
Tara Massaro says her son's school troubles started in December.
And I asked him how his day was, and he told me that the child hit him, punched him in the stomach.
And he just walked up to me and hit me.
Angelo told his mom another child had begun hitting him.
I messaged the teacher and the principal after the second time.
Again, like the same thing. I was just walking and he hit me out of nowhere.
Over the next 2 months, Tara emailed the principal and found there's no fast way to get a student removed from a classroom. How did this affect you in the morning when you were going to school?
Well, I didn't want to go to school.
I contacted Pasco schools about their policy in these types of cases. A spokesperson responded. A student may not be given special services as an exceptional student until they've been properly evaluated and found eligible. The evaluation and the process of creating an IEP takes time.
And it's serious, you know?
And across the bridge in Pinellas, Ray Stumpf shared the nightmare his son endured. The 11th grader asked that we not show him on camera.
It's destroyed his 11th grade year. It's destroyed it. These boys started jumping on him.
Ray says 2 boys jumped his son last year after school. Then someone posted a video to TikTok.
And it wasn't until I saw that video that I really realized that there was something serious.
This dad only recently learned about the beating that took place over a year ago. He found out after his son started skipping school last semester.
I don't know how I missed it.
Parents feel guilty, too, that their child is being bullied.
Sean Roberts, founder of the AMRAC Anti-Bullying Initiative, coaches parents and victims.
There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the kid. Keep showing the kid that he's loved and he has a purpose.
He points out parents often go into attack mode when dealing with school officials. Sean advises being civil while trying to get to the root of the problem.
And then they start going back and forth with anger and frustration, and then nothing gets resolved. Let's have a dialogue.
Andy says it's critical to teach our kids they must speak out, if not to their parents, then to someone they trust.
Let someone know that, you know, you're being bullied, and let them know your feelings. And constantly let somebody know.
Angela's mom reports her son is back to being a happy 8-year-old now that he no longer has contact with the other student. And in Ray's case, he's filed a report with the sheriff's office and is asking the school to come up with a plan for his son so that he can safely get his diploma.
My biggest concern is him graduating. It really is.
So what about bystanders? What can they do to help? Well, most kids are not comfortable intervening, but they should be encouraged to not only report what they've witnessed, but to reach out and say something supportive to the victim afterward. It can prevent that child from feeling completely alone. I'm Jackie Calloway, taking action for you.
And another thing for you bystanders out there, do not videotape it. Do not videotape it, post it on the internet, hope to get millions of views. Don't do it. That's what these people do nowadays. Get out their cameras, get out their phones, start filming it, post it on social media, and thinking, hey, I'll get millions of views. Don't do that. Because that's not right. Alright, look, we've all talked about people who have been. We talked about bus issues. I want to show you now a surveillance video of a school bus driver who's allegedly under the influence of alcohol. Really? Well, take a look at this. Take a look. I don't want to speak.
Definitely giving.
Because seriously though, if you are a bus driver who works with the school, you should not be under the possession of alcohol, period. That's common sense for you.
A school bus driver in Nicholas County was arrested on DUI charges.
And 33-year-old Casey Dodrell was arrested after an aide for the school district called West Virginia State Police to alert them of Dodrell's alleged erratic behavior while taking students home from school. News Channel 3's Joseph Payton walks us through the events of that day leading up to the driver's arrest.
It's an important job, a driver behind the wheel of a school bus with precious cargo on board. But on this particular afternoon, surveillance video shows Casey Dodrell could hardly read his own phone screen. Dodrell was a bus driver for Nicholas County Schools. We told you in March he was fired after he was arrested on a DUI charge shortly after he finished his bus route. According to the criminal complaint, Dodrell allegedly drove the bus off the road and almost failed to recover. WSAZ has now obtained surveillance video from inside the bus, and the rest of the nearly 3.5 hours Dodrell was behind the wheel. The video starts with Dodrell taking students home from Richwood High and Golly River Elementary School.
I'm not having a good day.
The superintendent says about 50 students were on the bus that afternoon. During the route, students may have heard explicit language as the video picks up Dodrell appearing to speak to himself in response to what he was hearing from other bus drivers on the radio. More erratic behavior from yelling to singing. After the last student was dropped off, Dodrell steps off the bus for a few minutes, but it's unclear why he got off. But a few minutes later, he gets back in the driver's seat and drives away. Investigators say he was arrested shortly after, bringing a close to a 3+ hour bumpy route. A ride that really could have been tragic, but fortunately ended with everyone home safe and Dodrell now out of the bus driver's seat. Joseph Payton, WSAZ News Channel 3, Nicholas County.
Wow. Now, according to the criminal complaint, Dodrell was arrested shortly after his route ended. State police say he admitted to drinking 6 beers before driving that afternoon and told them he, quote, had a lot on his mind. Troopers say he failed 3 field sobriety tests along with Dodrell. Another bus driver also fired over this incident. The superintendent says that driver knew Dodrell was intoxicated and didn't report it.
Didn't report it? Well, let me tell you something. Common sense alert. Every state should have laws that's saying you should not bring alcohol on school property. That's state law. State law prohibits you from having alcohol on school property. Didn't anybody get that? Apparently nobody did because nobody cared. But that bus driver, he got fired. I mean, think about this. We told you about 2 teachers in Tulsa Midway who were drunk on the job when Texas state law says no alcohol on school grounds. Yet they broke the law. The superintendent said he didn't want to report it, but he had to because it was the state. If he didn't report it, he wasn't doing his job. So what does that tell you? Compared to this, wow. Just wow. If you really think that a person drunk driving while on the bus was crazy enough, just wait until you see what happens. Take a look. This happened here at Corpus, and what you're about to see just left me speechless. Take a look.
If Taco Palenque is your favorite taco spot, you might have to wait a while for your next visit. The restaurant on Saratoga and South Staples saw major damage overnight after a moving truck slammed into the storefront. When officers with the Corpus Christi Police Department arrived on scene, they found the vehicle inside of the store. Officials say alcohol was a factor in this crash. The driver, 22-year-old Jonathan Gregory, was arrested for driving while intoxicated.
That's how I sound like if I was drunk, but I don't drink, period. And thankfully I don't. I don't drive. I don't have a driver's license. And thank God if I did. Common sense would tell you that I don't drink and drive. Period. Common sense would tell you to follow the law. Now, with the police, did they do a sobriety test? No, they just arrest him. The sobriety test is like you have to look at your feet and then go like this from heel to toe. Then you have to recognize all the letters from backwards, and you got to count. And if you fail to do so, then you would probably be arrested. That's why there's inventions called breathalyzers. Breathalyzers are used to measure how much alcohol you had. It's just outrageous. I mean, it's just not right. It just ain't right because really I don't drink and drive, but if I did, if you want, it was a U-Haul truck that happened. And if I drove a U-Haul truck, it wouldn't happen. I'll have some more updates in a moment. Stay with us. Everybody in Michigan is always asking, when will the Oxford High School shooter be sentenced? Well, the process is slightly different because the shooter is a minor. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the show, last season we focused in on Ethan Crumley, the 15-year-old who is now 16, who shot up who shot Oxford High on November 31st, 2021. At that time, we gave you the latest details. The parents, he's charged for murder. The parents are charged for involuntary manslaughter. If Ethan's convicted, he could face life in prison. But now the process is very different because he is a minor. The convicted Oxford High School shooter in jail is waiting to be sentenced on the 24 felonies he pleaded guilty to last year. But the question is, when will he be sentenced? He was just 15. The shooter is expected to stand trial this January after he initially pleaded not guilty to all charges, but he changed that plea to guilty in October 2022. He has been convicted of the following crimes: 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts for assault with intent to murder, and 12 counts of possession with a firearm in commission of a felony. It is the first time the U.S. school shooter has been convicted of terrorism. Now at 16, the shooter is lodged at the Oakland County Jail and will be sentenced. But because he's a minor who faces a life sentence without parole, the court must first hold what is called a Miller hearing before a sentence can be handled down. You might be asking, what is the Miller hearing? More than 10 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the case of Miller v. Alabama that mandatory life sentences without parole are unconstitutional to juveniles. Before the hearing, Michigan law mandated that a person convicted of first-degree murder must be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That sentence criteria is also extended to some minors of those under 18 years old, depending on the situation. However, the ruling in Miller case has changed how minors convicted of the first-degree murder are sentenced. The Supreme Court's ruling in Miller states that instead of automatically imposing a life sentence, a judge or jury must have the opportunity to consider mitigating circumstances before the imposing the harshest possible penalty for juveniles. Mitigating circumstances are defined as factors lessen the severity or culpability of a criminal act, including, but not limited to, the defendant's age or extreme mental or emotional disturbance at the time of the crime. Remember, he's 15, now 16. He shot up the school back in November. The Michigan bar says the judge and jury will specify consider following factors during the Miller thing: the chronological age, the family and home environment, the possibility of rehabilitation, circumstances of a homicide offense, and whether the defendant might have been charged and convicted of a lesser offense if not for youth. A Miller hearing has been tentatively scheduled for the Oxford School shooter for July 27th. The date of the hearing has been changed several times and unknown if the July 27th date will hold. The date was set by the judge. The date was set on April 14th. So we'll know by then. It is likely the Oxford will sentence this year, but it's hard to say when exactly, because we still got the Miller hearing to do. So when that day comes, we'll let you know what's happened. Now on to Uvalde. We're 1 month away from the 1-year anniversary of that horrific shooting in Uvalde. We're just 1 month away. Now there's probably new evidence to it. Just 10 hours ago from BuzzFeed News, a legislator shared a troubling new detail about the Uvalde shooting at a hearing on gun restrictions. I mean, we know it was the shooter that shot them, but probably new evidence has suggested about this. I mean, you remember from our video game segment from months ago, we looked at all those video games that cause people to go shoot up a school. I mean, you got violent tendencies, aggression and violent tendencies. Many people say it caused someone to go shoot up a school. The people inside the legislative room, including the family members of Uvalde and Santa Fe victims, whimpered and cried as Moody revealed a horrifying detail. This is the tweet from Joe Moody. Walked into the Capitol building at 8:30 a.m. Wednesday. Now walking into the Capitol building at 4 a.m. We'll never stop fighting for safer Texas. House Bill 2744 was left pending to the State House Community Safety Committee at the end of the hearing. So it could be passed in September. We won't know for sure. This one, Kimmy Garcia. Today was so mentally exhausting. We had to wait hours. About 10 hours, just to hear our bill get called so we could testify. The pain we have to endure, and over talking about what we are going through to make change, make a difference, and be voices for our children. Exactly. Gun safety is very, very important. What we talked about over the years is no joke. It is taken very, very seriously. When you're dealing with people with guns, I'm going to show you a Dayline report where we come back about gun shows. How it led to 2 people from Colorado ending up buying those guns. Stay with me. Just to clarify, I wasn't finding a Dayline report for Chris Hansen, but I couldn't find it, so I'm going to show you one more clip, and then we wonder how we're going to wrap it up here. This was from 2 weeks ago, as an incident happened where a bus driver resigned after this video exploded. A warning, what you're about to see is horrific.
Sick of you. I'm sick of all of it. I'm done with it. I'm gonna start kicking some serious. Do you hear me? Yes. My foot's gonna be so far up your. It's gonna dangle at your nose. I'm done with you. That phone in your bag. Now you give it to me. All right, fine. Done. God dang it! I can smell it. I didn't spray anything. I'm allergic to the. I didn't spray anything. It's like it's right in the big bag. You like to start too. You're no innocent little angel here. I'm done with this. Done. I had my fill. I'm done with it. I'm ready to walk off this bus right now and let you people walk home. How much more do you think anybody can freaking take? Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear another word out of your mouth. Okay. Excuse me. What did I just tell you? You think it's funny? You think it's funny? You're all... No, you didn't. You're so full of... You're as bad as he is. Done. Done. Not another word out of any of you. Done. Somebody needs to come up on this bus and seriously kick something.
Now this is a viral video. An MS bus driver has resigned effective immediately as school officials conduct investigations surrounding an incident involving alleged unacceptable behavior. Now this was probably the person that was involved in that video. She may tell her side of the story.
How much more do you think anybody can freaking take?
Yeah, that same bus driver, you're about to hear her side of the story.
How much more do you think anybody can freaking take? Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear another word out of your mouth.
You have likely seen that viral video of an Amherst bus driver yelling at students. Tonight, we're hearing her side of the story. She spoke with our Bree Buckley about the moments leading up to what you saw in that video. And Bree, what did she tell you?
Well, Russ, first off, she says the last couple days have been tough and upsetting. She's been a bus driver for 15 years in different parts of the country, about 2 years here at Amherst. She tells me she misses the kids she drove every day, calling the majority of them smart and wonderful. As for the support, well, that's been a shock for her.
How much more do you think anybody can freaking take?
This video has been viewed on TikTok nearly 3 million times.
Sick of you. I'm sick of all of it. I'm done with it. I'm gonna start kicking some serious.
Now Amherst bus driver Jackie Miller is sharing what you don't see in the video.
That particular day was challenging, to say the very least, because it started the minute this core group of students had gotten on the bus.
She says a group of kids on her bus constantly act out, purposefully instigating her for the last couple of years, and she finally had enough.
I'm sorry the way this went down. I truly am. I do apologize for my actions on that day, but I won't take it back.
She tells me she suffers from asthma, and strong fragrances trigger her attacks. One student yelled that another had sprayed perfume, which led to what you see.
I didn't spray anything. I'm allergic to this.
This after she tells me she just had an attack last month.
And she sprayed perfume on the bus, and I had a horrible asthma attack. I had stopped the bus, grabbed my inhaler, and just try and get my lungs to open up again. I had all the kids open up all the windows, but they know this.
Amid a nationwide bus driver shortage, Jackie says this is partially why.
This is a plight of all bus drivers. We are treated in the worst possible sense of the word.
My foot's gonna be so far up your gonna dangle at your nose.
That saying now on a t-shirt sold by Mistakes on the Lake Apparel Company in Vermilion.
We all kind of just felt for her in that moment. Like, we've all had bad days. We've all gone through hardships, and we just kind of, I think our hearts just kind of bled for her.
Shop owner Jackie Adkins donating $5 of each t-shirt sale to the bus driver, since she's now without a job after resigning, as support from a GoFundMe page started for her continues to soar.
There's just no words to say how grateful that I am, for the people that have supported me.
I spoke to the Amherst superintendent tonight. He tells me multiple students have been disciplined following this incident, though he couldn't give specifics on how many, what they're being disciplined for, or how. As for Jackie, she hopes to be a bus driver again soon. She tells me she drove disabled adults for years in Cleveland, and Russ, she hopes to get back to something like that.
Certainly. Okay, Bree Buckley, thank you.
Of course.
All right. We've heard her side of the story. Really hope that things turn around. We'll be right back. Finally, we've all seen those stupid videos on YouTube about bus driver freakouts. I'm going to show you this next one. It has a bus driver, a student giving the bus driver the bird. You know what I'm talking about? If I flipped you off, I'm sorry, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. The video has gotten 70.7 million views from 4 years. Take a look at this.
See you tomorrow.
He just flipped off the bus driver. It's not clickbait from him. Major Townsend. And this is what I commented about a year ago. You don't ever give the bus driver the bird or any of those gestures, and anybody that does is an idiot. If you agree with me, stand up. I'll just about okay tomorrow. I just feel bad for the bus driver. These kids have no respect. A million respect for the bus driver. He really said, nah. Paul, man, he doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Kid, first off teacher. Someone kid. Oh, crap. They're the type of kids who would do the orange justice when the teacher lets them have recess. So glad I was never one of those kids. These are so-called cool kids, not really a bunch of immature and undisciplined brats. The kid goes, oh shit, he's killing me right now. Call an ambulance, but not for me. That's just outrageous. Coming tomorrow, on Thursday, it's going to be a special Give Me a Break. The 24-year anniversary. 24 years ago, Columbine High was a horrific school shooting in Columbine. I'm going to play a 2020 clip back in 1990, Death Education, that probably led to that shooting. But did it lead to that shooting? You be the judge. It's a special Thursday. That's it for Give Me a Break Wednesday going to Thursday. We're off for Throwback Thursday, so a reminder, we'll see you for a special Give Me a Break Thursday. Columbine, 24 years later, a special Give Me a Break. For everyone here at YouTube, good night.